In this next video, I want to introduce a concept that's related to situated theory. It's actually a direct component of situated theory, and it's related to the core aspect of situated theory. So, a core element of situated theory is the situated self, right? And what the self is ultimately is directly related to an important psychological concept and a philosophical concept. Philosophical concept is deeply related to the philosophy of self, and it actually stems out of the philosophy of self, and that's personality and situated personality. And they're different because, like, I've talked in a previous video about some of the principles of personality: consistency, elasticity, and plasticity. And situated personality particularly is associated with that middle category, the elasticity, and it opens us up to more plasticity and also consistency. But it's how we go about actually moving and orienting towards a more positive self and promoting positive well-being through a meaning process that engages knowns, and that's important. That's the core aspect there that allow us to cultivate meaning and more of a meaningful process, as well as values, tapping into our values and our core purpose that has these branching out of various other purposes that we have in life that impact us in various situations and under various conditions, which might uh, adapt to various contingencies. And you can think about this as, like a tree that's branching out, but it's better to think of yourself more as a bipedal primate, right? Or somebody who can walk around and be more mobile than a tree, because they're not the same as us as human beings who walk around more dynamical. We don't just kind of sit there passively in our environment, just taking things in, more of a cerebral, experientially rather than perceptually, rather through the precepts. And that's what situated personality involves. So it's important, again, so personality, when we're looking at the structure of personality, it's composed of perception, motivation, emotion, feeling, action, and behavior, right? And those encompass the self and also the characteristics and elements of personality, the constituents of personality. When you're looking at a personality characteristic or a personality trait or an aspect of personality, there are often these constituencies between those aspects, like perception, motivation, emotion, feeling, action, and behavior. And they can be domain specific or domain general. And oftentimes, when we're looking or even doing research into personality, we'll break them down not into just one, but two or three different categories to be able to actually validate a single category. So, say you're looking at perception, and you're looking at perception of stress. You're looking at also emotion, feeling, behavior, action, as well as motivation. All of those are impacted. But the measures say perception, right? Or because we might be looking at like appraisals of stress, appraisals being how we perceive a stressor, either positive or negative, and how that's going to impact subsequent motivations, subsequent emotions, subsequent feelings, and subsequent actions and behaviors that are often more associated with coping and coping strategies. And what do coping strategies do? They're often perception based, action based, behavior based, motivational systems that are associated with regulating things like emotion and feeling, as well as motivation and perception and action and behavior. All of those, but how those constituencies operate together and form these constituencies is where we start to see the real personality research, but not just personality research, behavioral and psychological research. It's going to tap into more of this situated aspect of personality, which is often associated with these state-like aspects of personality. And state-like aspects of personality pertain more to situations and conditions that we encounter. And they can be temporary or particularly ephemeral, so it has that temporary component, but they're fleeting. They don't stay for too long, and they don't really characterize our whole personality. So they're kind of lacking more on that end of consistency, and they have more to do with flexibility or plasticity, and to some degree elasticity. And what situated personality helps us do. It allows us to develop more of this flexibility within the self, and particularly psychological flexibility, or you can think of it also in terms of personality flexibility, but it's more accurate to think of it in terms of psychological flexibility, which has to do with these connections that we make internally to linguistic or lexical associations, and personality steeped in a lexical tradition. So they're pretty much the same to some extent. There's very little difference to them. There's, so when we're thinking about situated personality, often it's oriented towards promoting more of a positive personality psychology, and also considering personal or positive social psychology in relation to that, but not so more of like positive behavioral psychology. That's a better way of putting it, because it doesn't necessarily have to do with um, more of our interactions with social groups. It more pertains to situations, and social psychology is more specific actually to study. It studies often situations in relation to groups and other individuals. So there can be a little bit of some misconceptions there that I want to clear up. So it has a deep behavioral component to it, and how that's going to impact our emotional well-being, but also a health psychology component, and ultimately a positive psychology component. And so the situated self, you can think of the situated self in relation to situated personality as having all these different components, and how they form these constituencies that allow us to understand a lot of these deeper connections, such as regulating the self in relation to how we perceive a stressor and stress in our surroundings, and how we can promote more of a positive self through recognizing our perceptions, recognizing our motivations, recognizing our emotions, recognizing our feelings, recognizing our actions, recognizing our behavior, and also recognizing the meaning and values laden in the self, and that we view in various perceptions, motivations, emotions, feelings, actions, and behaviors. And that's all I wanted to say for this video, so I hope you enjoy.